It's time for Hostel Discourse, Episode 12. Now your host, David Rohlfing.
Hey everyone, welcome to Episode 12 of Hostel Discourse. We've got a great lineup for you this week, just a few days before the 89th Academy Awards. Let me first introduce you to our guests. First with us again from Colorado Springs, Canaan Smith.
What's up, everybody?
And you know the rest of them. I'm sure you love them. Joe, Jacob, and Jared are back again.
Hello.
Hey. Hi, Jared. What's up? All right, so this week I did something a little bit different. I asked for some fan input, a little Q&A session. We had one response, so we're going to go with that one from our friend Tim Witham. You guys all know him. He's been on the show before. He asked, what were your favorite and least favorite movies of 2016? So I'll limit that to movies that were released in 2016, not just old movies you saw this past year. Anybody have a favorite or sucky movie they want to start with?
I can start. I think my favorite movie that I saw in 2016 was Passengers.
Ooh, not a highly rated movie, I believe. I could be wrong.
I don't know what it got rated. I just really enjoyed it. I love sci-fi, and I just was excited to see that take on a space survival story.
I respect that.
Yeah, it didn't get very good reviews. It was nominated for Best Score and something else. I can't remember.
The music is definitely a big part of what drew me into that movie.
Canaan, did you see Arrival?
I did not see that. I really want to see that.
I think that's one you'd really like if you value music and sci-fi, because that was probably the perfect combination this year.
Definitely.
Aside from Rogue One.
Of course.
That kind of leads me into my favorites of 2016, which were Rogue One and Arrival. I was really not expecting to be that impressed by Arrival. The trailer wasn't really something that got me excited, but I went to see it anyways with Jacob, actually. And the whole theater experience of having the awesome speakers and the soundtrack, and not even just the soundtrack, but the sound effects were incredible on Arrival. Canaan, you would absolutely love that movie. It was kind of on the same level as Interstellar for me as far as sci-fi movies go.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's saying something.
It's one of those blow your mind kind of sci-fi movies, which is my favorite.
That's cool.
And it's nominated for Best Picture. No way it's going to win, but sci-fi movies never win Best Picture, but there's still a little bit of hope.
True.
Yeah, Passengers wasn't mind-blowing or Interstellar level by any means. I just happened to enjoy. I think I was really drawn. It seems to be a take on Genesis to me in the book, the first book of the Bible. It seems like that in a new form, which just totally drew me in, and I was really stoked on it. I'm not trying to defend it. You can cut this part out.
You really say Passengers as your favorite 2016 movie?
Dude, I'm not going to say Star. I can't say that because every year it's going to be Star Wars. Yeah, that's just not. I can't do that. That is obviously my favorite movie that I've seen since The Force Awakens, and The Force Awakens was my favorite movie that I've seen since Revenge of the Sith. That's facts.
You should have prefaced Passengers with that.
Okay, well now put that in right there.
Okay,
that makes sense. I'll go with mine. So my favorites, in all honesty, are probably the same as David's, but for the sake of diversity, I'm going to say another one that I really liked, which was actually Zootopia. I don't know if all you guys have seen that, but it's the best animated movie I've seen in a long time. Probably, a long time as in since Inside Out, because Inside Out was amazing also. But Zootopia is a really good movie. Not something I expected to be super great, but I saw it in a drive-in movie theater and I was still impressed. And then I watched it again on DVD and obviously it was better there because I could actually see things. But that was a really good movie.
I saw Zootopia. It was really clever. I remember laughing out loud a lot, which doesn't happen that often for animated movie kid humor.
Yeah, for sure.
Is Zootopia the one where they make the sloth joke? That was the funniest preview I've ever seen.
The sloths, yeah. Oh, dude. Even though I knew that was in the movie, when it got to that scene, I still laughed considerably during that scene. I mean, it was hilarious every time. Jacob
or Jared, what were your favorite movies?
My favorite movie was Captain America: Civil War. I just think it was the best Marvel movie so far, and I do love Marvel movies. It added Spider-Man, which was a big pull for me. I'm kind of showing the depth of my movie watching experience. I had this last year, but honestly, I thought it was a great mystery, and it had a really cool ending, and it was dramatic, and it had theming and character development, and it really got me hyped for future movies. It was kind of all that I could ask for.
That movie I enjoyed, but it would have been pointless to me until the final scenes with Captain America and Iron Man and Bucky. Like, until that point...
I know, but
yeah, that part was great. But until that point, I was like, they're fighting in an airport. No one's actually trying to win. They're just basically throwing punches at each other. I don't know. I thought that airport scene was really cool, but also very pointless. But at the ending made it
Joe,
great.
It's commentary on political feuds.
That's
what are we
deep.
really fighting over, man?
What is it?
Okay.
Fair enough. Jared, what do you got?
My favorite movie of 2016 was Ghostbusters.
Serious?
No, that was actually my least favorite movie. My favorite movie was Rogue One.
Okay.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm not afraid to go Star Wars.
My man.
I don't. I admire
but
that.
Hey, Ghostbusters was the honorable mention, I think.
As your least favorite.
Can I change my answer?
Oh my gosh.
I thought of my real favorite movie that I saw in 2016. Hands down. Okay, I'm going to say that I liked this movie even more than Rogue One.
Whoa.
Which is impossible to say. Swiss Army Man. I have never laughed so hard in a movie theater in my life as when I was watching Swiss Army Man. And I have not ever seen a movie that is even in the same category as Swiss Army Man. The only thing that I can think of that could be considered even close is Napoleon Dynamite. And just think of how funny and culturally revolutionary that was. This takes it to an entirely new level, and it's you literally just never know what to expect. And it had me my stomach hurt at the end of the movie. It was just too funny.
Was this a international movie? I haven't heard of it. Was it pretty widespread?
Okay, so
really?
it's Daniel Radcliffe, and it's the directors are these guys named Daniels. They're called Daniels. They're two guys that are named Daniel, and they go by Daniels. And they're seriously, it's just one of the, it's the funniest movie I've ever seen in my life. And I completely forgot about it until someone else brought up a funny movie, and then I remembered that I saw that movie. Because I typically do not even like comedy.
Yeah, that's saying a lot. I'll definitely check that out.
I remember there being reports of
oh my God,
people walking out of the theater at South by Southwest at the first screenings of that movie.
Yeah, dude, the thing is, I could see people walking out in the first 5 minutes of that movie so easily. But if you power through that first 5 minutes, I promise you it is so rewarding, and it all makes sense. The reason why those things are happening at the beginning, that people were what the f- is this? It all is explained later, and it just is so, it's seriously it's beautiful in the most stupid and just funny way possible.
Man, is it on DVD yet?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Sweet.
It was a summer release. Highly recommend it. Oh my God. I'm gonna watch it. I'm just gonna go watch it after this.
Okay. Least favorite movies of 2016. Ghostbusters, Jared?
Yeah, no doubt. Movie was trash. But it does have a dope, the Ghostbusters song is freaking cool.
Was it the same song from the original Ghostbusters?
It is the exact same song.
They didn't re-record it?
I bet they re-recorded it, but I mean, it's just the same song. But it's such a good song.
It is a good song.
It redeems it. But the movie is really pretty terrible. I only saw 3 movies in 2016.
Fair enough. I'm going to go with the movie that was most disappointing ever for me, but especially this year, Suicide Squad. Simply because when the previews and just general hype about that movie came out, I was so stoked and I thought it was going to be amazing. Will Smith's, I enjoy his movies and Margot Robbie and everything. I thought it was going to be amazing. Ended up being trash, and that's why it's my least favorite.
Yep, I would agree with you, Joe. I talked a little bit about my disappointment back in December. The trailers looked so awesome, and the movie was just like a huge letdown. The plot had no substance. They did not have a good reason for even using bad guys on that mission, and the villain was basic and just crappy. It was such a bad movie. And my other one, since we have the same answer in that one, I'll give you my second answer, and I know this won't be widely accepted, but I really did not like La La Land, and the fact that it's nominated for 14 Oscars is a little disturbing to me. I didn't like the music. The main theme song was fine. The one that they repeated, I guess it'd be like the theme song. But the other songs they sang, I didn't like. I don't know. I know it wasn't supposed to have a happy ending, but it didn't feel like a satisfying ending to me. Their acting was fine, but I don't know. I just do not think it deserves Best Picture or half of the other awards it was nominated for.
Okay, so I'm just going to preface this with I don't go and see that many movies, to be honest, because I just have been so jaded by so many movies in the past however many years. I haven't seen a superhero movie in years. I don't go and see many movies. The least favorite movie that I saw was Fences. I understand that it was a play and it was portrayed on film, but it wasn't it didn't have enough going on. The story was obviously, it's like a phenomenal story, but the location being in only 3 places and there not being like really any driving action other than these guys getting drunk and having conversations in the backyard, and just like kind of the problem that ends up, causing is just, it's like, it didn't hit me. It didn't hit me. So I can understand how someone would see that movie and be like, wow, that was super close to home, or that was like an excellent portrayal of that time and that life and what it would have been like back then. But it wasn't a good, or it wasn't like I walked out like super excited that I had just seen that movie.
I haven't seen Fences, and I honestly don't know that much about it, but Honest Trailers released an Oscars special video today, and they've had all the Best Picture nominees in there making fun of them. And they were saying how Fences is pretty much like a stage play brought to the screen. So it is just like seemed boring, all in the same location, and pretty much would, I think, be better in a theater from what I got from what they showed than on a movie screen.
Yeah, absolutely. It would definitely be better as a play, something that you would see on stage. There's lots of monologues. I respect that they brought it to a movie form. And I enjoy that was done. I think that it's cool. I would like to see more of that. But I think that they could have worked things a little differently with some of the scenes to make it feel more like a movie and less like a play.
Yeah, I can see that. Denzel was nominated for Best Actor from that movie.
Right, which he is a phenomenal actor in that movie. He does a great job.
Yeah. Sweet. Jacob, what was your least favorite?
I'm going to say Suicide Squad as well. That movie bummed me out because it reminded me of like homework you didn't finish before turning in, or like
gosh,
when you're like writing a paper and you like reread the prompt and realize halfway through that you weren't writing about the right thing.
Oh my gosh.
That's a great way to put it.
Like, it's also like basically what superhero movies are headed towards, because it's like really detached executives bossing around really creative directors fighting over directions for movies. It's stupid, and you get bad movies. But the worst part is you get bad movies that that crushed it at the box office. So it's a system it's not going to change. And I don't know. It's just superhero movies, but I don't know. I need the next Spider-Man movie to be good. So I feel invested.
I understand that.
I'd say Marvel has a much better track record than DC, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But like, they're just as guilty, though. Specifically, like Ant-Man. Edgar Wright was directing that movie, and he directed Scott Pilgrim and like a lot of other great comedies. And he's really renowned and a great director. And he just left because he was getting bossed around too much. And like, I still liked Ant-Man, but if anyone was going to make like a really visually stunning superhero movie and refresh a genre that seems like it dies every 6 months or so with a bland movie, it would have been him. But like, the politics of it just got in the way.
All right, Tim, I hope we answered your question to your satisfaction. Congrats on being the first fan Q&A.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
So, unfortunately, the biggest Oscars fan I know wasn't able to be on the show with us tonight, my brother Mike, but we were able to snag him for a special segment. So Mike's going to give us his predictions on the Oscar winners and say who he would want to win the bigger awards, not the little ones like Best Foreign Film or the other ones no one cares about, but yep.
Hey, Hostel Discourse, it's the end of February, which means it's time for my Super Bowl, the 89th Annual Academy Awards. This Sunday night, the stars will take to the red carpet for all of the pomp and pageantry that only the Oscars can contain. This is the year of the musical, with Damien Chazelle's La La Land receiving 13 nominations: actress, actor, cinematography, costume design, directing, editing, original score, original song again, production design, sound editing, sound mixing, original screenplay, and best picture. It's the clear frontrunner in most categories, but there's always that chance of an upset. Let's go through the major categories and see if we can't predict the winners. Full disclosure, of the 9 Best Picture nominees, I haven't seen Hidden Figures or Fences yet, so that may sway my opinions a bit. Anyway, let's start with writing. Adapted screenplay should go to Moonlight, and I agree with that pick. Screenplay awards often tend to be consolation prizes for not winning Best Picture. In that vein, original screenplay should go to Manchester by the Sea. Visual effects is sort of a toss-up. I'd vote for Rogue One just out of principle, but I think The Jungle Book will take it for its incredibly lifelike animals and environments. The whole movie was shot in a studio in LA, and it looks like it's in a jungle. Alright, music. Original score will no doubt go to La La Land, which, despite competing with itself, Justin Timberlake, Sting, and Lin-Manuel Miranda, it should also sweep up the original song award. Its song City of Stars has been winning all sorts of awards, but I would vote for Audition, The Fools Who Dream. In the movie, it just has a lot more meaning and emotional depth than City of Stars does. On to editing and cinematography. I'm going to give both of those to La La Land, just because I feel like the voters are lazy and it has the widest appeal. One of my favorite movies of the year was Moana, but based on every other award show, it looks like Zootopia is a for sure favorite for animated feature. Either way, it's a great year for Disney. On to acting. The female categories are sort of toss-ups. I haven't seen 6 of the 10 performances, so I can't really judge it myself. But it seems like Viola Davis has a slight lead in the supporting actress category for Fences, and the crowd favorite for Best Actress is Emma Stone for La La Land. I'd give it to her just for her performance of Audition, The Fools Who Dream, which better win Best Song. Actors. Much deserving of the Supporting Actor award is Mahershala Ali for Moonlight. He was my favorite character in the movie by far, even though he's only in the first 30 minutes. For Best Actor, if performance was the only factor, Casey Affleck should be a shoo-in for Manchester by the Sea. But he doesn't have a good reputation in Hollywood, so it may just slip to Denzel Washington in Fences. Again, I haven't seen Fences, but Casey Affleck is so good in Manchester that I would have to vote for him. Best Director should go to Damien Chazelle for La La Land, which leads to the big one, Best Picture. There are 9 Best Picture nominees this year: Arrival, Fences, Hacksaw Ridge, Hell or High Water, Hidden Figures, La La Land, Lion, Manchester by the Sea, and Moonlight. And if history is any indication, La La Land should take this award by storm. Hollywood loves to vote for Hollywood. Just look at the last 5 years. 2011 winner is The Artist. It's a movie about actors. 2012 winner Argo is a movie about making a fake movie to save hostages. 2014 winner Birdman is all about actors. This year, La La Land is about two dreamers moving to Los Angeles and trying to make it in the industry. Almost everyone in the Academy has experienced that story in one way or another. Not to mention that it's an incredibly well-crafted film with catchy music and impressive style. All in all, I predict La La Land will walk away with an impressive 9 Academy Awards. Jimmy Kimmel will do a fine job hosting, but people will still tear him apart. And Hollywood will ultimately solidify Hollywood's love for itself. No matter who wins, the world will go on, and ultimately no one will really care. But I will be watching all 5.5 hours of it on my favorite spot, on my favorite couch, on my favorite television night of the year.
Thanks, Mike, for doing that special segment for us. All right, now on to what everyone has been waiting for, the debate for this week. And Canaan will be our judge and moderator, so he will be making the final decision on who the winning team is. And we will follow up the winning team of the debate with some trivia like we did on last episode. Okay, the debate question. Are the Oscars good or bad for the film industry? So, and the teams are Jacob and Jared, who are taking the stance of they are bad, versus me and Joe, we are taking the stance of they are good.
Ooh, yay.
Canaan, who would you like to go first?
I would like to hear why you guys think they are good first.
All right. David, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure, I'll start. Okay, so when you first brought up this idea for a debate, Jacob, I really didn't have anything in mind why you would think they're bad besides the Oscars So White thing in 2012 and just the validity of picking winners and how they do that. And upon researching all of this, I really feel like the Academy has done a good job at making the nominees a fair choice and the winners a fair choice and reflection of the whole film industry wanting them to win. So that's just a little bit on that. But overall, the Oscars are a great way for fans to get some face time with the stars that we look up to, and not just the actors who we see on red carpets everywhere, but the behind the scenes people like the editors or the sound guys, the people who we only get to see on behind the scenes videos. And at the Oscars, we get to see them in the limelight, getting recognized for the awesome work that they do on the movies that we love. And that's just one reason why I think the Oscars are pretty awesome. And I have many more, but I'll start with that.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I would also say that I think it's really impressive for the Oscars and the fact on how they judge it. I really like how they do it, having the categories based on the judgments of their peers. So, for instance, the actors are nominated by the category of actors, and directors are nominated by directors, and that kind of thing. And I didn't even know that until I looked it up, but I was impressed that that's how they do it. Simply because if there's somebody who I would most trust to understand that field, I think it would be, the actors and the directors. And I mean, they're more intelligent in that regard than I think the general public is. And so I think that no one's better to judge something than the people that do it day in and day out.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Is that all you guys have to say?
Yeah, we'll say more later. But
okay. Those are our opening statements.
Opening statements. Let's hear why you guys think that the Oscars are bad.
Thank you, Judge. And opponents.
So polite.
Thank you, Jacob. For the respect.
Yeah.
That does earn points in my book.
Oh, geez.
So, of course, the Oscars are a huge thing. The Academy is super fancy, and it could and should be a positive force for the film industry because they have this huge sphere of influence and a lot of resources and a lot of glitz and glam, and it's also, it seems really powerful. But what the Academy has actually done is gamify filmmaking to the point that it no longer adequately rewards artistic quality. So they're not really effectively rewarding good filmmaking because they've made this whole system of film seasons, and you have to go on these crazy marketing tours, and that's really what ends up getting rewarded at the end. Also, based on past nominations, it would also seem that the Oscars don't even want to emphasize the overall experience of film because movies that are widely enjoyed, probably the most personal example for all of us would be The Dark Knight, a movie that all of us really enjoy and few people would deny the greatness of, was not nominated for Best Picture. So they're not really trying to celebrate like a huge shared experience of film. So those are kind of like two aspects that you would think a film award program would kind of focus on and really try hard to accomplish, and it does neither. And so by failing to balance either the subjectivity of art by really only focusing on great film, even like from an intellectual sense, or like an I don't know, like really high thinking directors rewarding really great advancements in film theory and that kind of thing, that's not getting rewarded. Also, or by succumbing to consumerism, the Academy ends up making this vicious cycle with these film seasons, Oscar bait movies, and snubbed films like The Dark Knight. And it all culminates in this ceremony that like I won't deny David's point. We are getting this FaceTime with celebrities, which is really just us watching them on TV, like always. And so it ends up denying both the public of their experience with film and also artistic achievement that really should get rewarded and is getting denied by 10 nominees or whatever. So while the Oscars may do some good, their overall effect is a negative one.
Well said, my friend. Well said. I'll only add a few things, and that is to kind of hammer home the point that as an awards ceremony, for it to be good for the film industry, it should reward the truly artistic films, the highest quality. Those should be the ones that are recognized and rewarded and promoted. And that's not what happens at the Oscars much at all. They're commercialized, they're pretty biased, they're sentimental more than merit-based often. They're elitist. And ultimately that means they aren't rewarding the truly artistic and highest quality movies that should be, awarded in a film awards ceremony. And that has the effect of being bad for the film industry as a whole.
Jared, you're saying that the Oscars aren't awarding great movies. Name a movie this year that isn't nominated for an Oscar that is deserving of being nominated.
In fact, name more than 2 movies nominated for Oscar Best Picture that you have seen.
Yeah. You think you got me. But you don't got me. You don't got me.
Jared, any response? Jared, we're waiting.
I got it right here. So I'm going to answer that question a little bit differently. I'm going to give an example of an Oscar-winning movie performance, actually, that was kind of... It's really what I'm talking about here. So, and that's The Blind Side. So Sandra Bullock won Best Actress in The Blind Side. And I mean, Blind Side, it's a great movie. It was entertaining. It told a good story. But here's what I'm saying. Some of the things I talked about that I mentioned were commercialization, kind of sentiment as opposed to merit. And Sandra won Best Actress for that performance. Her performance was, I guess it was good for the role, but the role was not demanding. She's very replaceable in that role. It's the classic movie that's kind of made to be this big, sentimental hit. And that has a lot more to do with why she won this award than her performance itself. Because, her performance was not that great. And so, that's just one example of how other things besides merit and rewarding quality are going on at the Oscars.
All right, let's hear from David and Joe.
I have many rebuttals to what Jacob and Jared just said and questions. So
let's focus on your rebuttals and less on the questions for the other team for now.
Thank you, Judge.
Well, it's a rebuttal with... Okay. So, Jacob, you brought up The Dark Knight as your one example of a movie that got gypped from the Academy, which is a great movie that we all love. Yes, it's a great movie we all love. It wasn't nominated for Best Picture. It was nominated for 8 Academy Awards. Best Supporting Actor, which Heath Ledger won. Best Sound Editing, which it won. Nominated for Visual Effects, Cinematography, Film Editing, Production Design, Best Sound Mixing, Best Makeup. I don't know how you can say that The Dark Knight was gypped out of being recognized by the Oscars when it was nominated for that many and won 2 Oscars. And that's just a terrible example of that because it was rewarded and didn't win Best Picture. I don't remember who won Best Picture that year, but I would say that point is invalid.
Yeah, I would also throw out the fact that to me the Oscars, as an analogy, you could use something like the Heisman Trophy, but the Oscars are like trying to give a Heisman Trophy to a movie with far less statistics involved. Like this year for the Heisman, Lamar Jackson got it, and it was because he threw, however many touchdowns and had so many yards. And I don't think there's any metrics like that you can apply to filmmaking. So while it's difficult for the Oscars to reward a movie on something so subjective, I think that they do it. I think they do it well. And I think all the movies that have been nominated for Best Picture are really good. And contrary to what you think about commercialization, I would actually argue that the Oscars often reward very low budget movies and give them an opportunity to kind of get some spotlight when they otherwise wouldn't. It's not going to be the $600 million grossing movies, or even, I don't know, movies like that if you just went by the box office would be things like Batman vs. Superman or Suicide Squad. I mean, these movies may have huge audiences, but that doesn't necessarily correlate with great cinematography. And as for the stuff that Jared was saying, I mean, I don't know. It kind of sounds like you're throwing around a lot of vague terms to describe like what is the merits that would be judged other than what they are judging. I don't know. To me, it sounds like a lot of made up words for things that you haven't watched.
They are real words.
That's just me.
I'll piggyback on that a little bit.
Let's give Jacob and Jared a chance to respond.
Yeah, I'll just say that even in David and Joe's opening statements, they show that they agree with our stance. Also, in our earlier discussion, David himself has admitted that there is bias in Academy voting, in the fact that, of course, Arrival's not going to win. Sci-fi never wins Best Picture. And it's, quote, depressing that La La Land gets 14 nominations for a movie that is apparently not that enjoyable.
What?
I said I have not a popular opinion on that. Most people really loved that movie that I've spoken to, including Joe, I don't know if you've seen it, our other friends.
Yeah, but
Have not seen it yet.
It still fits in this narrative that we're seeing kind of unfold of the Academy awarding these movies that are like either really sentimental, like in The Blind Side, or they are very nostalgic towards like art and the film industry and seemingly denying, I won't say denying, it seems like a pretty narrow focus on Oscar bait movies, which is what La La Land is, and it's what sci-fi movies aren't. It's a predictable award system, and one like that is not good for something as subjective as film.
And while we've got the floor for a sec, I'd like to address what Joe said. Joe, to me, the fact that you're admitting that these films can't be kind of accurately judged is it's just more evidence that the wrong films are being rewarded. And that ties into what Jacob was just saying. And as far as commercialization goes, let me just read you something off the internet. This is from Tim Dirks, who's an editor at AMC's filmsite.org.
Good Googling, Jared. Good job.
I appreciate Tim Dirks' opinion on this matter.
Yeah, he's a genius. He says this: unfortunately, the critical worth, artistic vision, cultural influence, and innovative qualities of many films are not given the same voting weight, especially since the 1980s. Money-making, quote, formula-made, end quote, blockbusters with glossy production values have often been crowd-pleasing titans and Best Picture winners, but they haven't necessarily been great films with depth or critical acclaim by any measure. So, we're not just making this stuff up out of thin air. The commercialization and rewarding the wrong stuff has been documented by people who know a lot about this.
By Tim Dirk.
Yeah, by my guy Dirks.
Your guy. I'm glad that we...
Jared, you're reading this article by someone else that you don't know much about, and that's just plain not true. Slumdog Millionaire won Best Picture in 2009. It was a low-budget movie. most of the actors were handpicked out of the slums of India, and it's an amazing movie, artistic, like you're saying, needs to be rewarded, whatever that means. But it was an incredible movie. All aspects of the movie were great. It didn't pander to any big Hollywood bullshit like La La Land does a little bit. There's nothing about that movie that was like set up to win an Oscar, like you said, and it won Best Picture, and it won like 6 other Oscars. The actors are now like successful, and the main actor is nominated for either Best Actor or Best Supporting Actor this year. I can't remember, but like that's one example of how is the opposite of what you're saying, and a great movie that was rewarded because it's a great movie and not just because it's commercialized. It had a really small budget.
Yeah. And on this point about Tim Dirks, like the beauty of what he's doing and what every critic does is critiquing, and that is just opinion. And I think that when you take a large group of critics or a large group of directors or a large group of actors, you pool their opinions and you put that into a voting format. That's how you get what may be the best picture or the best actor. And I think just looking at one guy's opinion, first of all, isn't necessarily indicative of anything. And secondly, I think you guys are putting a little too much weight on the fact that the best picture should be the movie that is most enjoyed by the general public. And I don't think that's necessarily true.
Judge, can I just have a few seconds?
I would definitely give you a few more seconds.
Thank you. First, I want to talk about Slumdog. Slumdog was released right at the beginning of Oscar season. They were playing the Oscar game. Don't act like that movie just popped up out of nowhere on the voting ballots for the Academy and then snuck its way up to Best Picture. It is a game, and that movie played it for sure. And
just because a movie is released late in the year, you're saying it's playing the Oscar game?
It's impossible for me to say that the fact that it was released in mid-November is proof that it is part of the system, but you can look at the stats yourself about these movies and when they get released. There's a timing aspect to it. And coincidence or not, it plays into how you would want to release an Oscar bait movie. We're also not saying Tim Dirks is the authority on the Academy. It's just a perspective that lines up with what we're saying. So please don't misunderstand like an appeal to authority by this guy, Tim Dirks, that we do not know anything about. It's just a guy that happens to have some perspective and has been involved in tracking the film industry and has arrived at the same conclusion we have.
I think we need to look a little deeper into what the Academy Awards are for. And it's not really, I think the general public's perspective on it is that the Academy Awards should award the movies that the most people like, which isn't exactly true. The movies that are awarded for what the most people like are the movies that do the best in the box office. The Oscars are nominated and the winners chosen from about 6,000 members of the Academy, which is made up of professionals from the film industry, which is actors, editors, directors, the whole gamut, who have a ballot. They vote on they pick their top 5 for each category. Best Picture is different. It can have up to 10 nominees. This year it has 8. So these former professionals or current professionals get to judge their coworkers' work. That's just not like kind of how I've thought of it or how the general public thinks of it, of being like, my favorite movie should win because most people I know like it. The Oscars, like the winners are the people that film professionals want to win. They're the ones that win because they're the ones that are voting on it. I don't know. That's just like, I think what people need to realize, and is just a kind of like some perspective into how the whole thing works, which very many people know.
And for my points, I want to say, as for the time thing, I honestly couldn't care less if every movie released came out on December 7 of every year. Because the beautiful thing about movies is once they come out, they're always going to be there. So it doesn't matter if every movie is just pandering to this Oscar-style schedule. I mean, I don't really care about that. And I just reiterate what David said about, I would equate it most to kind of a football team giving out awards to its players at the end of the year based on like, you gave the most hustle or you gave the most, that kind of thing. They're recognizing themselves, and that may be pretentious, I guess, because it's televised. But I think that it's not bad for film, but it encourages them to strive and try for something. And I think it validates the people who worked some of the hardest.
Okay. Do you guys want to move into a question round where you guys can pose questions for the other side now? Jacob, I heard you mention that?
Yeah, I'd like to do that. Although I do think that in the interest of balance, I think Joe and David made some statements that we should be able to respond to, just so that we've all had equal speaking time.
Sure.
So I don't think y'all are considering the cultural climate and how the Oscars play into it, because I think we're also considering the film industry to be different things. Although I think Joe and I probably agree that the first thing that we might think of is aspiring filmmakers or actors or that kind of thing. The problem is there is that confusion David was talking about, where people are being told what the best movie is based on what a couple thousand people voted on. Not everyone is going to go on Oscars.com and figure out what the process is, then go see all the movies and really get this extremely well-informed perspective. I'm not saying that's a great thing either. What that turns into is this dynamic of kind of a Hollywood bubble telling hundreds of millions of people what was good art and what wasn't. And even though it's so easy to dismiss that, the fact that a platform like that exists with so much of an audience is not a good thing. It makes the bar that aspiring filmmakers and actors shoot for so much higher. And the exclusivity of the Academy makes those goals and dreams of being a part of that so much more far-fetched, because the people that are winning these awards are such familiar faces, and the ones that aren't are the people that got super lucky, in addition to all their hard work, of course. But it's that kind of speaks to the glamification of the film industry in Hollywood, and I don't think that's a great thing either. But the Oscars are really playing it up, subconsciously or not. It ends up playing into a cultural aspect that I think you guys might not be considering.
I think you're leaving a lot out of the picture. You say that the Oscars are stuck in this Hollywood bubble that no small actor, small director can pierce, but there's a system in place of film festivals that people can aspire to get to the Oscars, and they can do it through a pretty, not totally set in stone path, but it's pretty obvious what that path is. My brother's a small filmmaker. He does it for his job and stuff, Mike, but he had a film in a film festival in St. Louis, a short film. He won the St. Louis showing, which sent him to LA. He won the LA showing, which sent him to the Cannes Film Festival in France. And in France, he didn't get anywhere from there. But if his movie would have gotten noticed there by someone, it would have been then sent to Sundance or some other big but still smaller film festival. That is a path to the Oscars. Like, directors and actors and producers have a path that they can get there. It's not just this unobtainable, impossible thing. It's a goal that's there, and I think it's a goal that needs to be there, because what else would you be striving for recognition-wise in the film industry than getting recognized by the best people that are in that industry, which is what the Academy is. The Academy picks people to be in the organization that they have respect for. These are the most talented filmmakers and workers in the world, and there's a path to get there through smaller film festivals, through bigger film festivals, getting into theaters, then getting into the Oscars. I don't think that Hollywood bubble is as thick as you made it seem, that's unable to be pierced by small filmmakers, because my brother was, obviously his short film wouldn't have gone to the Oscars because it wasn't the best in the world, which is what the Oscars is, and I just think you were not giving that enough credit.
What I would say is I think that you're still kind of giving the Oscars more credit than it deserves. And it's weird that I would say that, because it's probably us that should be the ones doing that. But I think you are, in the fact that you're saying that whatever is chosen as best picture is objectively the best picture. And I don't think that's true. And I don't think what we're trying to argue is for this fact that like whatever the Oscars say is the ruling. We're arguing for whether or not what the Oscars do is good or bad for film. And I think that just because the Oscars, they're going to pick La La Land for best picture this year. And in my opinion, I don't think it deserves it. I think that there were better movies. I thought Arrival was better than La La Land, but that's my opinion. Number one, I'm less qualified. And number two, that's not just the end all be all on what the best picture is. But I think what it does do is it gives films something to shoot for. And some of them are going to get shafted. That's just a fact. It doesn't just ruin the film industry because suddenly they can't win these awards from the Oscars. What it does is it gives them something to shoot for, and it makes a spectacle for everyone to see the people that they want to see from the movies. It gives them a platform to kind of give their appreciation, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I'm not being misunderstood. First is that I did not want to say that it's impossible for somebody to make it to the Oscars. I also did not want to convey that I think that the Academy is speaking with authority on objectively the best movies. What I meant to say, what I was trying to say, is that that's all they're saying. All they ever say is that these are the best movies. And it takes the research to understand what context they're coming from. And the whole thing's just blown up to the point that it seems like everyone agrees because everyone tunes in. So it's almost like they have the power to decide which movies are good and bad. And of course, I don't believe that's true, but society acts like they do, which is bad. And it's because they have so much power and influence.
I mean, the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice Awards come out before the Oscars. So do you think that those are the ones who decide what the best ones are? Because more often than not, the Oscars agree with whatever they say.
I mean, not as much weight is put on those as the Oscars.
Yeah, but they tend to follow the same general trends with who they pick. So, I mean, our argument is that whether or not the Oscars are bad for film, and if every other organization is also bad, I guess maybe, but they're kind of the ones who paved the way for it.
Okay, so what you're saying is that if the Oscars are good for film, it means that they are recognizing the best movies first of all, right? That's what you're saying?
I think they're recognizing the best movies based upon the better criteria than any other option, yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I'm not trying to like corner you with something right now. I'm just want to make sure I get where you're coming from. The fact that there's a bunch of overlap between the Golden Globes and other awards, you're offering that as evidence that they are doing that and that the best films actually are rising to the top because different organizations are all agreeing.
I would say that's probably true, but I was more using that as a point because you had mentioned that like the Oscars were kind of using this to like kind of project an end all be all best picture. But I think like because there's other organizations, they're not really doing that.
No, okay.
It's more of a...
It's just that...
I don't know.
None of them are the Academy is the only thing.
No, that's true. And the Oscars do carry the most weight, for sure.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're probably at that question stage.
Yeah, let's move forward to the question stage.
Jacob, you mentioned a few times glitz and glamour being a negative aspect of the Oscars. Why is that something that's bad or bad for the film industry?
Because it's a lot of really familiar faces with celebrities. It's a lot of money going to not many people in an artistic industry. It doesn't really add up to think that, like, if everyone was actually being rewarded for the quality of their art, we wouldn't have people like Leonardo DiCaprio. It's not like people are actually that much better at acting that they accrue this much share of the market, right? So, of course, there's like a kind of a politics of celebrity and fame, and that's where all the money comes into play. So the glitz and the glam is proof that the Academy is not working against maybe what the culture or like the mind think of the hive mind of Hollywood might push towards that celebrity, and the Academy is just playing along with it when they could alternatively be putting a lot more focus on hidden talent that I think is okay to believe exists.
Okay. Jacob or Jared, do you guys have a question for Joe or David?
Sure. I'd ask Joe if he thinks maybe bringing up the better judgment of the Academy denies the subjectivity of film. So basically, if you think that there really is a really academic and intellectual academy, and they are picking the best movies, does that mean that the academy actually is able to speak with authority and really be objective? If not, how often do you think that line gets crossed where the Academy picks movies that are worse than their fellow nominees? And I'm only talking about Best Picture because I feel like that's the essence of these awards. So
you're kind of asking whether or not like the fact that the Academy is very or the most qualified means that they are picking the best film?
Yeah. Because so you said that you're pretty humble about your own opinion because you know that the Academy is more informed. I'm just riff on that.
I mean, I don't know. To be honest, it's either they are picking what is the best picture, and it might not be the one that people most like, or it is that they are not picking the best picture and there is an actual best picture out there different from what they picked. But I think...
Well, Joe, I don't think it's that simple. Like I was saying before, like they're picking the best picture from the perspective of a film industry professional. It's not from our perspective. It's from an average person could think that Captain America Civil War deserves Best Picture because it was awesome. Like Thomas, who probably thinks that.
Shout out.
The Academy is picking their choices from their perspective, which not very many people have. So I don't think we're addressing that right now, and that's something I brought up before, and I think that's an important perspective to have.
Yeah, and I don't even think it matters if they are picking the most objectively or subjectively best picture. I think what matters is that they're giving films validation and recognition for what they deem to be the most hard work, and they nominate 8 films in this year's case, which probably are some of the most qualified, and there might be a few that don't make it, but I don't think that is a bad thing for film.
So, Joe, you value hard work the most when evaluating movies?
No.
He's saying as a working film professional, that's probably a perspective they have that we don't, because we don't know what it's like to work on movies, but they do, so they reward that hard work that they see in the movie for each category, like director, editor, actor. They can see that hard work, which we don't really have perspective on.
So a good example would be like Mozart probably didn't work that hard. He was kind of known as like this lazy, I don't know, hedonistic person, versus like Salieri was his rival, and that was like he probably worked harder or whatever. But that doesn't mean he was a better composer. I think that Best Picture comes down to, who has like these best ideas and the best execution. So that doesn't necessarily mean hard work at all, I don't think.
Right.
It comes down to just what is better.
Okay, that makes sense. It just seems like you guys still disagree on that point, though.
Well, that's okay. I don't think us differing on that opinion has any effect on whether or not the Oscars are good or bad for film.
Yeah, we're both arguing the general same point here.
My question for you guys is that, like, I get what you're saying about all this, but how is this negatively impacting film?
And we can start to wrap it up here. So these are kind of final statements, by the way.
Like, how has film been harmed by the Oscars?
I think the main way is lots of movies that are kind of truly artistic and creative and new and stuff like that. They often, and I'm not saying always, but they often don't even make it to consideration for an award. And that is harmful to the film industry, because what a film award ceremony should do, here's what I think. I think that the Oscars bring some kind of momentary attention to whatever films that the voters pick out. But there's a big opportunity cost that all these films that deserve to be recognized aren't recognized. And so it's a bit of a hidden cost in that sense, but it is a really big cost, and it's still there.
I would say that the Oscars are just too established. And what that means practically is that you go and see a movie like Deadpool differently than you would see La La Land, which, okay, of course, sounds really normal, but it denies certain movies that opportunity to be recognized in a certain way because of a really established system. I think that Deadpool is actually a really good example of a movie that should probably breaking more molds than it has been this year because it was so good and it was a really raunchy superhero movie. So you have like that super predictable gamified system that comes from this hugely successful, this huge group of really successful people using their voices to make statements they probably shouldn't be out of a place of authority, whether you want to say that they've earned it because of their success as a filmmaker, or whether you want to say it's impossible for them to make that judgment. The fact is, 100 million people are going to watch people be awarded for apparently having the best movie. And that just has a cultural weight. It inflicts too much objectivity on an art form, which is just a bad thing. It unfolds into that same kind of elitism and like the Hollywood bubble, and even into that stuff I was talking about earlier with Suicide Squad. It evolves into these huge studios with super disconnected executives making decisions because they are so successful from these other endeavors and so-called best movies. If the Oscars weren't there, I think we would all go to the movies in a slightly different way, maybe not thinking about whether or not they would win an award. And I think that would be a better thing for the film industry.
And I'll add real quick, the things we've mentioned all along, the commercialism, the bias, elitism, sentiment, all these things factor into the Oscars in a big way. And that's not what should be rewarded in a film award ceremony. And by giving weight to those things, that does a disservice to the film industry.
Okay. Joe and David, do you guys have any closing remarks?
Yeah, do you want me to say something?
Sure, go ahead, Joe. I'll finish us
All
up
right,
later.
Sounds good. So for my closing points, I just want to say that I don't think that giving awards to one movie in any way detracts from a different movie, regardless if it was a movie that maybe deserved to be accredited or rewarded. I think every filmmaker makes their movies in order to get an audience and maybe to make money. And I don't think that just because La La Land wins money, it's going to take suddenly a ton of rewards and accolades from a movie that maybe deserved it more. So I don't think that necessarily takes away from the film industry. And I think the thing I would equate it to most is something like the Nobel Prize, which is also something awarded by a committee to very subjective, what was the best in any given field. And it's some of the more qualified people making the decision. They give it the award, and maybe there's some scientists who did some great work who don't get rewarded, but that's just a fact. But I don't think the Nobel Prize is bad for science in the same way that I don't think the Oscars are bad for film. And in the final point that Jared made, I'd also just say that I get it that sentimentality is maybe rewarded, but I also think having sentimental films is something that really allows actors to stand out and for pictures to be great, and it instills emotion, and I think that's what film should do. So I don't think rewarding sentimental films is a bad thing.
Very good. Okay, so my final thoughts here. So the Oscars are good for the film industry because filmmakers and professionals in the film industry have something to strive for, a platform that they can be recognized by their peers. If that didn't exist, I think the main source of recognition or where people would go to see, what's the best movie, would be the box office. And right now, the 2016 box office, domestic grossing, number 1 was Rogue One. Happy about that. Number 2, Finding Dory.
Not great.
It was all right. Number 3, Civil War, Captain America. Number 4, Secret Life of Pets. It's like, if the Oscars didn't exist, I think it would create an even bigger problem because studios that want to generate money would be pandering more to like a target audience of like whoever's the biggest target audience they can get. These movies I just listed are kind of those that like a lot of people want to see, but aren't necessarily the best movies of the year. And I think that the Academy does reward artistic movies more than the box office does, apparently. Not saying Star Wars isn't artistic, but I don't know. I just think that it's a goal to strive for, which is a very good thing for a professional trying to become the best in the world. It's a good thing to have. Even if it's hard to obtain, it's not unobtainable. Those are kind of my concluding thoughts.
I would say, just in the sake of fairness, we started with the conversation, so maybe we should let them just say some quick stuff to finish.
What a guy, Joe. Well, just to address what David said briefly, and then one more kind of overarching point. Jacob said this in the beginning, and this has been our argument throughout. The Oscars, in theory, they should be a good thing, and they could be a good thing. And so we don't argue that the Oscars should be abolished. We're saying, in theory, it's good, but as is, it's a detriment. So we're not saying it should be gone. We're saying it should be tweaked. I don't know. I feel like we summed up our closing statements pretty well, so I'll leave it at that. Unless Jacob's got something. Okay, we're good. We're good, Judge Man.
Woo!
Canaan, what do you got?
Okay.
There's a lot to digest.
That is a lot to digest. I think that everyone brought up a lot of really great points. David at the beginning brought up the idea of celebrity FaceTime, which then Jacob kind of rebutted and stated that it is sort of like the same as it always is, which just ends up us seeing them on TV or reading about it on the internet or whatever it is. I thought that both of those points were argued kind of like equally, and so like that to me, those cancel out. The fact that David and Joe brought up that these movies are judged by a panel of professionals, and it's even further than that, it's categorized by different roles that would be performed within each movie. I thought that was probably the most convincing point that I heard throughout the entire night of arguments. To me, it makes the most sense to have the people that have made it their life's work to do whatever specific role. And we're talking like very specific roles, like visual effects or film composers, musicians. These are small pieces of the grander puzzle of a movie that require an expert to be able to even judge fairly. I think that Jacob and Jared bring up a fair point that not every movie gets a fair chance at the Oscars, but in the end, that's a fact of life with any form of art. And Joe brings up the fact that filmmakers know that, and they are going to make their movies regardless. And they're not, Joe said that a filmmaker is making movies to try to appeal to or try to share it with as many people as possible and maybe make money. Joe says that. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but in the sense of this argument, I think he's right, and I think that the filmmakers wouldn't necessarily care, or they're going to make the movies regardless. And the Oscars is almost like it's like a cherry on top of the cake, or it's something to work towards, or it's whatever it is. I think that David and Joe have presented a stronger argument that the Oscars are a positive thing for films.
That hurts pretty bad.
Yeah. Nice job, Joe. Thank you for that analysis, Canaan. We talked for a long time and you remembered a lot of points, so good job on that.
Yeah, I was taking notes.
Our most dedicated moderator yet.
Dude, that was awesome. I thought, I really did think that everyone brought up great points. And to be honest, my personal opinion falls more in line with Jacob's. However, I think that right now in my life, that may be coming from a state of like bitterness, or like not like wanting to be there and I'm not there yet. Yeah. So I obviously can't let that determine who wins in this debate. And I also can't let that affect my motivation to keep working towards making films, which in the end, I'm going to make films and I don't give a shit about the Oscars.
Right. You shouldn't.
I'm not even going to watch the Oscars.
That's what we're saying.
But if you get there, you would like them, I'm sure.
Right. But yeah, if I could, that would be awesome. So yeah, I'm not right. If I make it to that level, I will not turn it down. Obviously.
You have some trivia questions for us, right? We need to decide who's the ultimate champion between Joseph and myself.
It's on.
Okay, I cannot pronounce this name. Georges Méliès silent film classic, A Trip to the Moon, revolutionized storytelling through film.
Oh, jeez.
What year was it released? And this is a multiple choice.
Okay.
A, 1899, B, 1913, C, 1902, D, 1906.
1906.
Joe?
I'm going to go... Jeez. I'll do 1913.
Okay, no one got that.
Dang it.
Correct answer.
1902.
1902. And obviously no Googling during this. Yeah. Okay.
My hands are up.
And I did write these questions myself. The first...
That was very obscure.
Yeah, that was
very
rough.
obscure. What? These are about movies.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, what's next?
The first film ever presented in public caused a literal panic and featured what subject?
It was a guy sneezing.
Is that right?
Joe?
I was going to say...
Oh, crap, I have
David,
a better answer.
Yeah.
Can I give the real answer?
Yeah.
It was a train.
That's correct.
Oh,
the train.
yes.
Okay. Well, so David will get that one because he was the first one.
I was honestly going to say horses galloping because I remember there's like when they first invented like this spinning thing that could like project light onto anything. It was like horses galloping or something like that. But that wouldn't make any sense in that question. So
Okay, one more and I win. Correct.
All right.
First to two.
All right.
That's
Here we
what
go.
we did last time.
What were the first films that included sound known as?
talkies.
Yes, Joe! Ding, 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 ding.
Oh man, I'm getting nervous.
Okay, it's 1-1. The Jazz Singer was the first released feature-length talkie. What year was it released? This is multiple choice. A, 1933. B, 1915. C, 1909. Or D, 1927.
1927.
I feel like that's right. But I'll do 1915.
1927 is right. David
Yes.
is the winner.
I should have just picked it.
Oh yeah.
I think I put too much emphasis on 1927.
Whew. Wow, good questions. I was not thinking you would pick ancient.
Yeah, not what I was expecting. But that's
Come
all right.
on. It's movies. Okay, last question. Anyone can answer this. What year was the first Oscars Academy Awards?
Ooh.
Multiple choice?
No, it's not multiple choice.
Ah, geez, I know. I'm going to go with 1928. No, that's wrong.
No, that's it.
Is it?
Everyone chime in.
1938.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go with 1928.
it was 28.
Was it?
Yeah.
I'll say 26.
It was 1929.
Ah. I know that this year's the 29th or 89th. I just didn't know. I thought I could do math. Turns out I can't.
89.
Wow. Good questions,
So
Canaan.
at the fun little trivia fact, at the 1929 Oscar Academy Awards, they actually honored films from 1927 and 1928.
Oh, okay.
But that was the first ceremony.
Huh, that's cool.
Nice. Well, it's a little conceited, but I get to crown myself as the champion of this episode. Cue the music. Me. Woo. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thank you, Canaan, for being such a great moderator. We got to have you back on sometime.
Of course. Anytime.
Thank you, Tim, for the nice Facebook question. Anyone else listening, look out for those posts, and we might give you a shout out on the show like we did Tim.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe, Jacob, and Jared. Really good arguments, Jacob and Jared. I was very impressed, and it was very fun.
Thanks, guy.
Thanks. I agree.
Great job, guys.
All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
So long. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Hostel Discourse. Subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. And check out our other social media accounts linked in the show notes. Join us next time for more inexhaustible debate over the most questionable of topics.